Один, два, перевірка мікрофону. Зараз посигналу Саші, тоді почуємо.
Ми чекаємо хвилинку, бо в нас ще онлайн-стрім іде разом з нами, щоб всі, хто дивиться нас, також мали змогу нас почути. Dear all, welcome to America House. I represent the ICU-Kyiv Career Development Center, and we do lectures which will help you to develop skills to build your successful career and your personality. Today we welcome Adomas Audickas, and he will tell about his experience working in the public and private sector, and will share his ideas how to build your personal success. So please welcome Adomas Audickas.
Thank you. When you say success, I will present my success story. This is, of course, obliges me to deliver something very important for you. And I'm not sure whether I will impress you with my speech. Because usually when we discuss about success, at least in my head, charlatans talk about success. Some fake prophets that say, well, you have to repeat these 5 things and then you will be happy or you'll be successful. I'm not sure that it's that easy. I think it's much more complicated than this. So I will discuss about success the way I understand it. And before maybe discussing about success, I will discuss about failure, because sometimes understanding failure is even less easy, less difficult, not less easy, than understanding success. I remember when I came here, that happened 18 months ago. I was studying in INSEAD, and Ukraine was in all television programs. It was a big event due to Maidan, due to Russia conflict with Ukraine. I was so excited because myself from a political world, and Lithuania is so much related with Ukraine. You don't even know that. I know because Lithuania is a small country for you, but we always discuss about threat from Russia, that they will come for us. It was always topic since 1991 when we became independent. And when it happened in Ukraine, then we understand those guys are our friends. They have the problem right now that will happen with us. So it was very important to me. I even created a club for politics in INSEAD, and we discussed Ukrainian issues, we discussed other political issues. And back then I remember I wanted to invite daughter Yulia Tymoshenko to discuss the situation. I was so stupid to think that Yulia Tymoshenko is a big reformist in this country. Now I realize, but it took me some time. So Aivaras called me one day and said, I'm about to go to meet the president, and most likely he will appoint me as Minister of Economy. And I said, by the way, you work for Minister of Economy, tell me what they do. What kind of things I have to do as a minister. Because he's very clever, of course, but he's from business world, not from a political world. So we discussed a bit. I was so excited. He called me that I shared my ideas. And I said, I will organize you dinner with our Prime Minister in Lithuania, the former Prime Minister. Quite famous reformist in Europe. So I organized dinner. I flew back to Lithuania, prepared, go to the barbers, good mood, prepared all the scenario of the dinner. I thought it will be great. And I went to the border controls in the airport, and I realized I forgot my passport. And my passport is in France, not even in Lithuania, because we fly in Schengen zone only with ID cards. So it was a terrible thing for me. I spent a gloomy evening in Lithuania while the dinner happened with the Prime Minister and Aivaras here in Ukraine. So that was my failure. Discussing about success, I think you can define success in many ways. At least in 3 that I know. One thing is what people say American dream. It's just big truck, massive house, 2 kids, and beautiful wife. This is for men, not for women. But I think this is simplified, because some people are not happy with this. Sometimes they feel that it's not enough, they need something else. And it can be different definition of success. It could be evolutionary success. What we mean by success from evolutionary point of view. And I will come back to this because I think this is very important, and that will be the key of my discussion, the key point I want to make about evolutionary success. So evolutionary success is success when you feel happy. Then you need to understand what do you have to do to feel happy. I will come back to this. The third definition of success that I also want to discuss today is about having objective and being able to implement it. Just understand what you want and do it. Have a result. This is success to me. This is how I perceive success. And to achieve any objective, any meaningful objective, you have to have cooperation from other people because you cannot do anything alone on your own. If you want to build business, you need to find partners. To find partners, you have to have right chemistry with your partners. You have to have good relationship. You have to have financial motive and so on. You also need financial investors. You need your employees, of course. So you need cooperation from people. If you want to go to politics, you need cooperation even more because in politics, financial incentives do not work as much, at least in other countries, not Ukraine. I'm not talking from the bad point of view, but in Ukraine, politics become as part of business. But real politics, people motivated by something else, not for financial motives. And if you want to be, for example, a basketball player, you also need cooperation because you need to find coach, you need to cooperate very well with team players. So cooperation is at the key. And to understand how to get cooperation from other people, you have to understand what motivates people. What are the key motivation of people? What do they want? Because when you understand that, then it's easy to get cooperation. When you get cooperation, then you can get what you want because people will help you. So what do you think? What people want? What are the key motivation? What you want?
People like be happy.
Be happy, yes, but this is a very high level objective. But let's go down a bit.
Interested is something.
Being
Personal
interested in something.
development.
Personal development, but for what? Why you have this motivation
For development itself,
But what's the final result?
being better.
Okay, so but okay, money also is quite. I think that money buys power or money buys significance. It's not the very end.
Peak of the pyramid of Maslow.
Good point. I think what people every day, what do they want? They want to be acknowledged. They want acknowledgement. So let's write. I think I'm dyslexic a bit because I'm terrible at spelling. So I will write the way I understand, but most likely I will make mistakes. Acknowledgement. What else? Good car. Do people want good cars?
Yeah, cool.
Expensive cars. Very interesting. Because it could be comfortable car and expensive branded car. Because if you can get Mercedes and the same car without this brand Mercedes, would that be the same?
Well, that's prestige then.
Exactly. In terms of comfort, it's the same, but there's something else. So let's write good car and branded car or expensive car. What else?
Big house,
Big house.
Real estate.
private house.
Real estate. General.
Real estate in general.
Yeah.
What else?
Yacht.
Yeah. So it's I see that material stuff motivates you. Comfort in general. Okay, yeah. Let's discuss about something else. So definitely people want comfort, just to feel comfortable. But they want this expensive branded cars, and it's so strange. Why do they want branded cars if I can get unbranded car? Or for example, clothes. They can be the same comfort, but some people want brand. It's so important. And I used to never wear branded clothes myself until I fall in love and I wanted to impress somebody. So I started wearing branded stuff. And then I was thinking, what happens with me? So there is acknowledgement. We can say that people want respect. They want social acceptance. and many other things. And I think it's possible to bring this into two categories. One category is comfort, and the other thing is this mysterious thing is significance. People want to be significant. It's a very general word. I will explain.
Social fun.
So, and sometimes these things overlap. Like expensive branded car is also comfort, but also show my significance. So sometimes these things overlap, like branded cars as we discussed. Now, when I came here, I didn't know what exactly ICU means. I know ICU Investment Bank in Ukraine, but I didn't realize that ICU is Christian university. And I want to speak about evolution. So I'm sure that you're open to all ideas and you will accept that. So why we have these two key drivers, comfort and significance? From evolutionary point of view, what Richard Dawkins says, even Darwin says, that the key motivation of all human beings and all life in general is to spread our genes. It's just to make our genes to survive, to pass to offsprings, that my genes continues to live. So this is at the very top is spreading your genes. And now why this related? Very easy to explain. You need to have comfort to be healthy. If you don't have comfort, you're not healthy. It means you cannot spread your genes. Now why you need to be significant? This is a bit more complicated. Because significance increases your chance of mating. Not right now, because we live in different era right now, but when you think about evolution, 4 billion years, those people that were significant in the group, they were having many mating partners. So this is why it's only those living organisms survive, that had this motivation. Those living organisms that do not have this motivation, they just died out. So natural selection. This is why we have this internal driver to be significant. Any questions?
Something about psychology comfort.
Psychology. But psychology is being accepted, no? Or something else? What do you mean?
I mean psychology comfort.
Psychological comfort. So psychological comfort, but in what sense? It's very general.
If you want to get some target, you should be good with yourself, with your mind, with your...
Of course. Of course, and when we discuss about significance, what you discuss about being comfortable in your head, having this psychological comfort, is very important. Because usually people, when they're young, they get the significance from outside. Other people have to recognize them, that they are significant, and this is how they're motivated. People with age, with time, they get this internal significance. They don't need so much recognition from outside. They're becoming wiser. Just because they do understand that they can do this psychological comfort internally. But still significance is very important. Now, we'll explain, everything will make sense very soon. Now, this significance is quite dangerous thing in reality. And I can give you an example from real life. People say power corrupts. Power corrupts people. And in my understanding, it does, especially those people that have ultimate power. And history shows that as well. So, for example, kings, how they were behaving with people. They did not care about life of people. They were killing them every day in masses. Nobody cared about them. For example, Egyptian pharaohs. According to Egyptian pharaoh, how many people died building pyramid to pharaohs? Any guess? Someone else?
Millions.
Millions. Someone else? The answer, who cares? Because Pharaoh had very simple logic. You know what's the logic? I want it. This is the logic. This is brutal. People are brutal for power. And when they have ultimate power, this becomes very, very important. They then don't care about other people. But interestingly, we're created in such a way that we can somehow control this brutal power. And it's important to discuss about how human brain works. So let's imagine that this is human mind, and we can divide it into three pieces. One is conscious level. The other is subconscious, and it's the biggest, it's the most important. And then you have emotions. So conscious level is that part of our mind that is very inefficient. It takes lots of energy to take any decision if you're making decisions only according to your conscious mind. There are cases where people have mental deficiencies because of various head traumas, and subconscious level does not work. So those people cannot make decisions. They go to supermarket, they cannot choose anything. They see a bunch of brands of ketchup and they cannot understand which one to choose, because your conscious brain does mathematical calculations. How much does it cost, what the taste is, how the brand looks like. So people cannot make decisions because it is in reality very inefficient. Subconscious level is the level that we develop through our life. It's continuous learning. It's automatic, pre-programmed decision making. At the very beginning, when we come to life, subconscious level is quite small, but through learning, subconscious level becomes much bigger. The easiest way is to understand it, it's driving a car. At the very beginning, it's so difficult to drive. Your mental capacity works 100%. After some time, you just drive and do not think, because everything is at subconscious level. So most of our decisions with time, we're making with subconsciously. That's why we're so efficient. We can decisions so fast. And emotions, this is a very interesting part. Emotions also part of our mind, but this is the part of this pre-programmed decision making that comes not in life learning, but through genes. They're coming from our parents, grandparents. So this is developed through evolution. It's pre-programmed. We born with this stuff. I'm not sure whether you remember old PCs, how they are working. DOS, do you remember DOS system? When you buy a computer, you have DOS. Then you have to install either Linux or Windows. So this is DOS. You're already buying it. You're taking something with existing software. And then Windows is, or Linux is your subconscious part. And conscious part is man sitting behind the computer and controlling all this. So here we have this brutal willingness for power, and people behave very bad when they have this. When emotions become so prevalent, but subconsciously we learn through consciousness that if we are brutal with others, what will happen? If I don't in reality have any power, but I'm brutal with others, what will happen? I will throw away from the group of people, or from the group of living organisms. And a million years ago, that means I'm dying. I cannot survive alone. So this is why through time we learn to understand that we cannot act brutally with people. We have to have some values. And religion, all values, culture, this is our assumptions in our mind. This is this part. So we still have this willingness, brutal willingness for significance, but because of culture, because of willingness to be socially accepted, and we do understand we cannot behave in any way we want, we counterbalance these emotions. So this is how human mind works. Now, what principles I think is very important to follow to be successful, to get cooperation from others, understanding how people work and how they behave and what motivates them. The first thing is, you can call it never outshine your master. It means that if you have your boss, right? usually when you start career, you start from somewhere below, at the bottom, and you always have your supervisor. So never outshine your master means don't try to be cleverer than your master, because if you do that, these brutal emotions arises here, and they will crush you. That's why it's very important to have very good relationship with your master, if I can call it this way. I'm just exaggerating a bit, just to make it more interesting. Because if you start to compete with your master, that's it, you're done. And there are many historical examples, I can give you one. In 1661, 16 Minister of Finance in France, Nicolas Forgue, he was part of Julius Marquez government. Julius Marquez was prime minister. And then he died that year. And since Nicholas was so good and indispensable for the king, he thought that he will be the next prime minister. But then he wanted to impress the king. And then he organized massive party in his new chateau that he built with architects from all around the world, the best in the world. He organized massive event, the most incredible event, with artists from around the world. Even what's this French poet, very famous, that were writing comedies.
Beaumarchais.
Whatever.
Molière.
Molière. Even he wrote play for that event. So the event happened, and the king was invited as honorary guest. Nicholas wanted to pay tribute to the king. When the event finished, the next day, Nicholas was put into prison for 20 years. And he was accused for stealing. And he stolen money, but on behalf of the king, because king asked, with his permission. So he spent 20 years in the prison, while the king built Castle of Versailles, because he wanted to build something even bigger. He thought, how come this Minister of Finance can be better than me? So he wanted to show his massiveness, his brutal power. And he built Palace of Versailles, and he made even bigger events. So this is the principle, I think, which is very important, that you have to try to make your boss, your master, better than he is. Then you will build very good relationships. You have to, and it's not only one-way thing. Sometimes masters, bosses, they need support, this psychological comfort, as you say, because their work usually is very complicated. They get, let's say, stress and problems from all around the world, plus sometimes they have internal problems in their teams. So at least if you know the problem internally, this helps. The other thing, the other principle, which is, I think, very important, is to master your emotions. We make decisions when something bad happens here, because this is pre-programmed, it's very fast. In many cases, this is very wrong decision. But it's psychologically, it's pleasure. But usually this pleasure costs you much more than the benefit you gain while making this emotional decision. Emotions cloud reason, and when you have clouded reason, you cannot take decisions clearly. So if you feel that you're emotional, try to avoid making any decision. Get calm, get some rest. I learned this quite recently, actually, because I'm very emotional. I'm always very aggressive. If I have conflict, I go into fight straight away. But right now I'm learning this because I do understand how many problems it brought me in my life. I have so many enemies because I'm emotional. So some people are not that emotional, some people are more emotional. But still, for some of you, it might be very important. If somebody pisses me off and they send me some SMS or email, I never send email back just right away. I will send next day. This is important. The other thing that is important, in my opinion, is when you ask for cooperation from other people, never appeal to their generosity or to sense of rightness, meaning that it's a right thing to do, so please help. Always look to the self-interest of other person you're asking. Try to understand what that person wants and explain why with you he can achieve that. That's also very important. And the last thing, it's don't try to be perfect. Because when people see that somebody is better than them, especially if they are at a very similar level, they always start to compete. Try to make other people better than you. You will see how many friends you will get. And lastly, I said this is the last, but lastly, the one thing I remember, I had one friend that was just amazingly social guy. Had so many friends. I said, what's your formula? Tell me. He said, well, I have 2 eyes, 1 mouth. I speak twice less than I listen. So it's very important. Just listen more than you speak. And sometimes people say, well, I listen. In reality, to understand how to listen to people, this is almost science. It's very difficult to sometimes, when you sit with somebody, you wanted to say something so much. So you start speaking, you're not listening to the other person. Sometimes you're stressful because you're with other people. And this is normal to feel stressful when you're just sitting with others, just normal condition. I may explain why, but maybe I will not go to the key topic. So try to listen to others. Don't speak too much. Those are very short, let's say, teaser of the principles it's important to follow. I invite you to ask questions. I know that I did not speak about my experience, my professional experience, but I think this stuff is way more important than what I did in the ministry or private sector or so on.
What do you think about nepotism in the last...
Nepotism, yeah?
No. Yeah. I mean nepotism between last...
Well, whatever, your master.
Yeah.
It happens, but I think you have to choose your boss. You have to understand him very well, his emotions. If the person is really corrupt inside, no integrity, and he's despot, I think it's a wrong place to be. And you're just wasting your time because you will never achieve anything because anyways, he will not allow you to develop. What Steve Jobs did, he was quite brutal, but one thing he had illusions in his head that he made them, and he made those illusions real. Because he said, well, I need to solve this problem. People say it's not possible. Solve it next morning. And people solved it for some way. So sometimes even brutal, but visionary allows to develop. But this is very rare case. Usually despots, they do not allow people to develop. And somebody said there, I think, that development is one of the very important motivations. So choose your master, choose your bosses. Leave the place.
What do you think about subordination? For example, you have a beautiful idea, but your boss next level, he says that your idea is bad. Could you skip this level and go with this idea to next level?
I would be extremely careful.
Yeah.
Because when the guy realizes, then he understands that you're not loyal. If you're not loyal, you're not part of the team in his head. He will keep you to do the work you do very good, but he always will understand that you're not his team player. So this is very important. So I cannot say do it or not do it. It's just extremely dangerous. This is your boss, and you have to make sure that this guy feels happy. I still think it's possible to agree with this guy that we go and present idea here, and then you say, I will make sure that that we will be able to present this as your idea.
Yeah.
Then he'll be so happy.
What do you think can be maybe the most fastest way to develop some subconscious level, as you told?
Well, when we discuss about subconscious level, we're discussing about change. When people say, these are the 5 things, do them. But, and you do understand, yes, those 5 things seems obvious. For example, when you go and do public speaking, don't be nervous, people say. Yes, I do understand that I should not be nervous, but I'm nervous because this is inside me. Or other things, or many other examples. Just people say, do it, and then you do understand it, but you cannot really make them. because you need to change your mind, you need to change your head, you need to change this subconscious level, and it's very difficult. I will explain. This is change is very interesting topic. There are two opinions whether people change or not. Some scientists say that people not change. Some people say that they do. In my opinion, people definitely change. It's just incredibly difficult to change your character. And those people that say that people do not change, they base it on science, which examines masses, big amount of people. They take sample, then after some time they check whether those people change. So they're doing science on masses. And on masses, I think people do not change because change is so complicated. But you can still find examples when people do dramatic change. So the science behind checking whether people change or not, those that say people do not change is wrong. People definitely change, in my opinion. But to change people is very difficult, because what you need to do, you need to change your brain, physically change your brain, physically. You can do it through force, through working with yourself. Our brain is built from neurons. So we have neuron, and then you have, I can't remember how this thing calls. Axon. So connections, and then you have another neuron, and then you have synapse here, which is a small gap.
Acquire knowledge and change your habits.
So this is, your character is just some shape, some form of connections in your brain. And to change yourself, you have to change connections. And your character, your subconscious level, is like, for example, this connection defines you. It becomes so prevalent, it's like a river in your brain. And you cannot send signal through other route because you already have river here. So what you need to do, this is change, for example. You need to make river here. But to make the river here, it takes a long time. It takes years. But I think it's worth it, because the result is incredible when you start working on change. The other thing on change is that people usually say, I will change this time. I went to some lecture. It was an incredible speaker. He inspired me, so now I know how do I live. Usually those speakers say too many things, and you want to change all of you. It's not possible. What science says that you can change one thing at a time, 2 at most. You have to focus on one thing. So for example, I remember I discussed with my professor regarding public speaking. And there are many things I need to improve. And then he said, if you want to improve many things, first focus on one. First is eye contact. Work on eye contact only. Don't think about anything else, just eye contact. Make eye contact with the audience. Then when you master this, do some other thing. So change happens very slowly, but only if you focus. Any comments from a brain scientist, neuroscientist?
It's about
Huge thing.
neurons.
I can't too many tell about. But
What about
it's you.
Personal experience in change.
I have a question. What do you think? What is the best way to change your habits and to improve yourself? Like to repeat this action many times, or what to do the best?
I will give you an example, because somebody asked me how about my personal change. There's one thing that is built in me, in my genes, and this thing related with emotions. When I am in a room with people I don't know, I become a bit nervous. There is some small pressure in my belly, and when you have this, sometimes it's aroused even bigger. When it happens, people call it freeze or fly response. Then your brain shut down. It does not work very well, because your body interprets the situation as a threat. And when you feel threat, for example, a million years ago, bear wants to hunt you, then your brain shuts down not to lose energy, and all your muscles are ready to run. So this is what I feel this sometimes. The issue with this Stress is not a problem to me, but the thing is that your mental capacity does not work at 100%. And when it does not work at 100%, you feel even more nervous. So for how to change that? And I was working on this. Yes, some change happened because I analyzed it a lot. But then I tried to understand more deeply why this happens. There are two things. I think it's possible to change it somewhat, but not entirely. Not entirely because this this emotion comes from our part of the brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala is our reptile brain. It's emotions. This is what we inherit. And what is very interesting, that this amygdala is not connected with signal back. My conscious brain, it cannot send signals back to my amygdala. Amygdala can send signal to my conscious brain, but it cannot send signal back to say, come on, it's not a threat, relax, all okay, because the signal does not, because of the way our brain built. So this is why you cannot solve it entirely, but you can manage it, and quite seriously. But you can manage it by understanding first why I have this threat, because I'm a clever person, I don't understand it's not my physical threat. I'm not threatened. And I'm in good sport shape. Sometimes I even want competition. It's not about this. Then I realized that it's about being disposed, that maybe I'm not as good, maybe mentally, as I think, in some discussion with people that don't know, because they do not acknowledge me. So this is why the stress arises. Then you start to understand why it's so important for me to be significant, to be so clever, and then you coming back, that significance is so important. And when you understand all this, that this is why I behave this way, this is why I have this stress, this because significance is so important to me. When you think about this, when you think that this is not clever way to act, when you analyze those situations, with time you can decrease the thing. So this is my personal experience. So it takes time, it takes analysis of yourself, and constant thinking about this. Not that you think all the time, but you can sit down 1 hour per week and think about this. By the way, thinking in general, this is what I realized in INSEAD. I was going to many lectures. It was fun, it was interesting, but after some time, I tried to remember what I listened in that lecture theater. I thought at that time that I did understand what the professor was speaking. But when you discuss the topic, you just listen in the lecture theater. Then you understand there are so many gaps I don't understand, but only when you start discussing with somebody. And then I thought this is just not efficient way to learn. Because yes, I go there, I have some illusion that I understand everything, but it's an illusion. It's in reality, our brain fools us that we don't understand, that we do understand. In reality, we don't. But it's very interesting to understand that this illusion from your brain, and I can explain why we have this illusion. So I thought that what's very important is to structure what I learn in lectures. So what I started doing before going to any subject, I was raising questions to myself. What exactly I want to understand there? What will I get? Why it's important? Just very obvious questions. You spend 15 minutes on this. Then you go to the lecture theater, you already have some context. Then after lecture theater, the best thing to do is to do 1-pager about what exactly I learned. And the bet, at least to me, this is the way I learn, is to draw some schematic representation of what you learn. Because in my opinion, and brain scientists might confirm this or not, this is, I did not read this anywhere. This stuff from the books and from experience. This stuff coming only from me. My thinking is that when you memorize something, you have some scheme of connections in your brain. And when you represent something graphically, then you allow your brain to memorize the stuff much, much better. So I started doing this, and all those lectures where I went and did this, I do remember them now, but I can't remember the other stuff. And thinking. So it's one thing, it's just before the lecture you think, after the lecture you think, but in general, I think that people receive so much information. We have way too much that we need. The problem is that we're not using this information. Because people, if they have problems, they usually try to find answers in books. And they Google, they read books. What my understanding or my experience allowed me to understand is that thinking about the problem is much more efficient than reading, because you can come up with the answers yourself. The stuff I'm discussing here, most of the stuff I come up myself, and then read about this in books. So the thinking is very important, and I was trying to do an exercise while in INSEAD. It happened right now because I'm a weak person, as all of us. I'm not continuing it, but my rule was to sit down 1 hour per week and think about general problems, about my life. How do I want to live? What do I want to change? It's so difficult because when you think, you work with your conscious brain, and conscious brain requires lots of energy. This is the same as going to gym and working very, very hard. Some people love it, but most of the people don't. And I think that thinking is even more difficult than training your muscles. So thinking, I'm not sure who of you will be doing this, but I'm sure that those who will be doing, you will definitely be successful. Because all the things that you get from books, it will make sense for you.
Can you answer, do you feel disappointment with Ukrainian society?
No. Why? Why would I have a disappointment in Ukrainian society? I think Ukrainian society are in a hostage situation by politicians and by oligarchs. Some people say that you need oligarchs in this country because oligarchs bring stability. For example, war situation with Russia, Kolomoisky helped to defend Ukraine from Russia. But I think it's such a nonsense. Because the first thing why you have this war with Russia is because of oligarchs, because they made this country very weak, because government is very weak. And it's so cheap for oligarchs to buy anyone in politics. Public servants receive $100 salary, or $150. It doesn't matter even if it's $300. It's so cheap for any oligarch to buy this guy to paying them $5,000 or $10,000, because the government is so weak. It's one thing that people are not get paid well. The other thing is that those institutions that they have to fight corruption, that they have to make sure that rules that are created, they implemented. Because I think that the key problem is not the rules that exist in Ukraine, it's implementation of those rules. So prosecutor office, other organizations, they are core of corruption, rather than being those that have to fight corruption. And this is because it's related to oligarchs, because it's convenient for oligarchs. But then also, what's very interesting, that also oligarchs are also in a hostage situation in Ukraine. Because some of them buy politics to have protection. Because you're not protected if you don't have influence. So it's a vicious circle, and you have to break it. And without agreement with oligarchs, I think it will be, I don't know how to solve it in reality. You have to agree with them that, guys, either we'll put you in the prison or you leave the country. You cannot do this mess, what you do right now.
Okay, what do you think about corruption? How change level corruption for 3 years, last 3 years?
Whether the corruption changed?
Yes.
I don't know, because I'm living here for 18 months. Yes, 18 months. So I don't know what happened in Yanukovych time. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter. I think, just my subjective opinion, that it did not change a lot. I think that perception that corruption is even bigger in people's head, because right now we have more information in media about this, people talk more about this. So because of this, I think people perceive that corruption is even higher. So corruption is massive. I know very well, because I'm working in the government, I was fighting it. And I left because I said, in reality, you cannot heal patient with cancer by giving aspirin tablets. You have to have chemotherapy. And to have chemotherapy, I think you have to have new parliament. This parliament is just not functioning. And I'm not sure what the new parliament will have. This is the most interesting thing. But I think that this country, if Ukraine wants change, you have to take risks. You have to take risks, otherwise you're keeping the situation stable. And stable situation, when political pressure is so high, when temperature in politics, when temperature in society is so high. So what happens when you have stable situation and very high temperature? A rotting process. and this rotting happens in people's heads, they will soon say that I want Yanukovych back, because this mess, when we have a war situation, when we have increasing tariffs and massive corruption even bigger, it's not working for us. So I think if we don't have, for example, premature elections right now, Oppo Bloc, the previous party of regions, will come back very strong.
You have been working for government, yeah, so I'm sure you know a lot about level of salaries in our government. How can we attract high quality specialists to government? There were a lot of talks about creation of special fund, yeah, with help of international investors that will increase salaries for government, for state servants. But these talks, for 1 year, yeah, for 2 years, but there is no fund still.
Yes.
So we can't raise salaries for government, state servants, yeah, and so we can't attract good specialists to government who will be a trigger for changes in Ukraine.
Good question. In my opinion, expertise, knowledge that you speak about to make reforms is absolutely not a problem, because international community gives you so much expertise, and they give you money as well if they trust you. So I'll give you my personal example. I came to work for the ministry. I did not have anyone to help me. I didn't have even salary, but then they had to pay INSEAD loans. I said, well, Aivaras, we have to solve this somehow. So we'll go to international donors and we will find. And actually we went, and I had competitive compensation. Competitive meaning that you get this what you get after finishing INSEAD MBA. It was competitive compensation from international donors. And I raised a team of, at the peak, we had 20 people. All of them received higher than market salary, the market level salaries.
Yeah, but you have a limit, budget.
Yeah, I'm saying that resources to pay experts for some time, intermediate time, let's say 2 years, 3 years, not a problem at all. This fund did not happen because nobody trusts Ukrainian government right now. Because why they would give money if they know that it will not help? With reforms, with the progress, it's not a problem of not understanding what to do. Everyone knows that. Reforms are made in many countries. The problem for us, for example, was to pass decisions, because we know what to do. Take this, since it's online I cannot swear, but take this law or government decree and pass it. It's brainless, but you don't have decisions. Prime Minister does not sign. Or if they sign, even if the government decides, the Prime Minister will not sign. This happens. So we had government approving some government decree, Prime Minister is not signing for 1 month, for 2 months. This is nonsense, but this is what happens. So the average time for us to make government decree, to pass it, was 7 months. And government decree, for example, on such simple things as auditing state-owned companies, by just getting audits from them.
We have anti-corruption bureau.
No, but anti-corruption bureau does not audit. It's not a function. You have to have financial audit. So because most of the companies, state-owned companies, businesses that government has, you don't have information. You don't understand what exactly they do, because financials that they provide, I don't trust them. And we wanted to audit them. So it's a completely understandable thing. But to get this decision, we needed 7 months. And then we were stopped at the court.
I mean, anti-corruption bureau will maybe increase situation with corruption. So foreign investors maybe will bring money to Ukraine, and maybe they will create a special fund that will finance our salaries in public sector, maybe in future.
Yeah. I think that this fund right now will not help, because it will not be as big. I think that Ukraine has enough resources to pay its public servants itself. Because you simply can do one very
legislation restrictions, you know.
Yeah, but again, Ukraine, what's the key objective right now? Is to have economy going again, is to reach at least Polish level. This is at least. I think Ukraine has much more potential than Poland. So what you need, what grows economy? It's business. It's only business, because government does not grow economy at all. Government is fixed cost of business. The bigger the government, the bigger cost for fixed for business. And when they compete with other countries, they have to finance this fixed cost. So you see, if this part is very big, they're not competitive globally. So government is the problem, it's not the solution.
Yeah, but
right
government
now.
creates rules for business.
Exactly. So what you need to do right now, you have to allow business to work. And for this, you need clear rules.
People
In my
skills.
opinion, rules are not the worst. It's 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. The problem is with governance, with implementation, of enforcing those rules. It's 2 out of 10. So, for example, if you build any business, and I discussed with many businessmen, they say that the FS terrorized them. They ask for bribes to get VAT returns. There is no law that allows this, but they still do it. So we have to get this enforcement. When you solve this problem, many businesses will come to Ukraine. Many businesses will come to Ukraine, they will pay taxes, you'll get enough money to pay your public servants. So I think that this problem is easily solvable. But not, this fund might be some intermediate stage, but you can do it only then when you really believe the government will make all the decisions that will be prepared by this new group. But when you know that it will be stopped at the parliament level, and you will spend money, you will prepare laws, but they will be kept in some drawer, what's the point?
I have a question. My question is about what do you think about introverts and extroverts?
Yeah.
Some people believe that it's easier to make success for extroverted people because those are considered to be more smart, they talk more, they express their emotions, and people are scared sometimes of introverts. Because typically those are people who sit quietly, observe a lot, and do their job quietly.
Not convinced with this story at all. I am more introverted than extroverted. I know myself very well. And so, of course, you don't have either A or B. You have range, right? So some people are very extroverted, some people are less, some people are more introverted. For example, Misha Saakashvili is on this extreme side of extrovertness. He is driven by other people. He gets energy from other people. And this is why this is why he's so successful politician.
Like
Donald Trump as well. I will share. The difference with extrovert and introvert is just one difference. Is that if you're introverted, you fill your battery, your energy when you're alone. Because when you are with other people, you spend energy. When you're extroverted, vice versa, you cannot be alone because you're losing energy. You need to go and meet other people, then you get energy. But extroverted people, in my experience, they have less structure. They cannot focus very well. This is the problem with them. While introverted people can reflect, can think, can strategize. So you have this, introverted people have this big advantage. And especially when introverted people do understand how to work with them, how to this limitness of spending energy while you're with others, then you can be extremely powerful. So my strategy to fill my batteries is sports. I do a lot of sports. I go running. Then I get a lot of energy. I just fill my batteries in this way. I sit and read books. And I think about myself, reflect about my own emotions and so on. And this helps me a lot.
What I was going to ask more, the next questions was going to be, currently I have a job where I'm a part of a team. And I see sometimes that I don't even bother to show off that I did something or I'm smarter in some aspects, because there is a few people who just talk a lot. And I see them as not very intelligent because of what they're talking. So what is your advice? Should I simply change the job or change the situation? Attitude? Because I've been trying to change the attitude, you know, like, okay, my team leader will see that I do my job properly, that I don't cause any troubles, but honestly, I don't believe that this is happening.
Well, it's a difficult question. You have to, be in your situation and know all the details to understand what decision to make, because it also depends whether you have other options. But in those cases, when you have difficult people to deal, talkers, honestly, I don't like them myself, because there are people just that talk, and it's not it doesn't make sense. They just talk because they feel most likely stressful because when they shut up. So since I'm introverted myself, in my team usually I shut those people down. I said, this is not the topic we're discussing right now. I try to be very, very structured. But when you're part of this team and maybe your boss is not paying attention to this, or maybe your boss is of this kind, then I don't know, just try to internalize, try to understand that.
I'm a newcomer in
So,
the team. I'm the youngest to say so.
But maybe it's just too early to say. Try to learn, try to understand the situation better.
I
Try to
see-
understand why they're doing this.
But I see that at this point there may be no opportunities for me because those people, they're teaching me, and I would learn all this
Look, but-
stuff like in a day, in a week, but they are doing their job horribly.
So you have competitive advantage. You are among people that are not as smart as you. So just wait, and the day will come, I think.
You mentioned that important. You mentioned an important motivation for success, respect of other people, and if in Western countries, if you're a thief, if you're corrupt, you have no respect. Your career is done, and you're down the drain. But here in Ukraine, if you're corrupt, it's not a problem. Our mayor, people say, our mayor is corrupt, but he gives us free food before the elections, so it's no problem, we can vote for him. And it works not only with politics. If someone is not paying taxes, oh, he's a smart guy, he's respected. How is it possible to deal with these wrong values?
Of course. Well, three things. One thing is that I think that it's very similar in all countries. It's not only in Ukraine. US is massively corrupt. You just don't hear that. It's really corrupt country. But yes, acceptance, social acceptance is smaller for corruption. I think the smallest level of corruption is in Nordic countries. But Nordic countries, I think, is very just bad example for other countries because they have special history. Because they're very social in general, because they were living in groups all the time, and socialism might work in those countries but may not work in others, because it's just of different history, and this history developed through many thousand years. It's not even 100. But in all the countries, I think the level is different, but it's not that nobody accepts wrongdoers, and in Ukraine, people do accept. Now, it's one thing. The other thing is that I think you can change that through changing culture, subconscious level, but government also needs to put very big effort to this. So first is various TV campaigns. For example, don't drink and drive thing. And people do understand with time that it's not nice to drive when you're drunk. That's what happened in INSEAD when we came. The first thing, the first lecture was about this, don't drink and drive, because INSEAD is based in Fontainebleau, and Fontainebleau is a very small town around many forests, and people come with their cars and they party a lot, and after parties they drive drunk, and there are many accidents happening. So with time you do understand it's not cool. So I think the same with corruption. You just have to show social campaigns, and then you also have to have first a head of the country that usually is example for others, should have zero tolerance to corruption. You should show an example. The first thing is that corruption is profitable in Ukraine. And in my opinion, when people talk about Ukrainian potential, I also believe that Ukrainians have massive potential because you are so entrepreneurial, you have so much energy. But the problem is that incentives built in this country is not to build value, but to capture value, meaning stealing. Because if you build value, this is usually a long-term play. 5 years, 10 years. If you're doing something 5-10 years, you have to have stability. You have to know that next day SBU will not come or prosecutor officer will not take my business. This happens in this country. So people usually focus on how to make money in a very short term. And the energy goes in this kind of projects. The other thing is that corruption is not punished. You do understand it. Okay, I'll do corruption. I will not be punished. You have to cut people's hands for corruption. It will be a good example. People will definitely not do it. People, as I discussed about key motivations about the key motivation of spreading our genes. This is the key motivation. Because of this, we're very selfish, and nobody will can prove that people are not selfish. They're very selfish, and they're selfish at the gene level. This is a very interesting topic. I can come back. So the selfishness always makes you calculate benefit, what I will get if I do option A or option B. If I do option A, I will get $5,000 for the right thing, but it will take me 2 years, and I get $100,000 in 1 month, and I will not be punished. So the expected value here is much higher, especially when you have culture which accepts corruption. But when you know that I can get $100,000 in 1 month, but the risk of catching me is 50%, and they will cut my hand, then my expected value of this might be $2,000. So I'll choose this A. This is how people work. So this is why I think that people have to be punished brutally, zero tolerance. Only then you can bring culture of right behavior.
Yeah. What exactly were you involved in the ministry? And it just feels embarrassing, you know, inviting international experts and then have them leave or resign. So do you plan to stay in Ukraine? What is your vision if you're staying here? And maybe some advice for in which direction to move?
Well, I'm staying here because I have many opportunities here. One of the things we're discussing private equity with a few partners, and just interesting topic to me. I always want to do private equity, so this is why I'm staying here. The other thing, I feel here part of community. It's nice country to live. I always thinking why I love Ukraine, but then I understood I love Ukraine really because I think I'm patriotic already after this time, and also I feel part of the community, so I feel good. So this is why I'm staying here. Lithuania is small. I love Lithuania, but the ambition is not as big as it can be in Ukraine. The other thing why government does that, I don't know, I was thinking that many times, and I don't want to go too deeply in this and personalize some bad people, some bad problems. So maybe I will try to be a bit more general, but let me think on how to put it. I think that when you make any reform, it will never happen in a very easy way. So it's not, reforms are difficult to do. People always say that, because if it will be easy, then everyone will do that. It's difficult to do. So international people that are coming, they do understand it will be difficult. And they were working in other countries. They do also understand that it will be the same, because in other countries you also have vested interest, corrupt politicians, and so on. So for example, Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, when he reformed the country, at the very beginning, he agreed with oligarchs. He said, you either leave the country tomorrow or you will go into prison. Some of them left. The others thought that this is a joke, nothing will happen. And he put them into prison. So this thing happens, but not in many countries. In most of the other countries, nobody does anything with vested interest, and they stay. So reform because of this become very difficult. And I think it's normal to have difficult situation. I think it's normal to have those international experts, because some people come, they lose energy and leave, new energy comes. You still have step-by-step progress forward. Sometimes people leave, as Aivaras left, not because he wanted to leave, he adored his job because it was really interesting. And by the way, why people go into politics, because it's significance. They feel motivated. So he loved the work because we also had some results, but he left because he thought that the result of his public statement would be more impactful than staying him there. And actually it wasn't more impactful, because after him, government collapsed. So this is why he made the decision, not because he just said, I have had it. He just wanted impact.
Thank you very much. So yeah, first of all, thanks a lot for the insights and motivation you gave us. I think everyone would agree. My question would be, one of your starting points was about the not overcoming your master. But I think judging from your own experience, especially in public sector, sometimes you come with fresh ideas, you're the reformer, and you got stuck exactly on the higher levels. So is there any, like with the parliament or with the cabinet or someone who doesn't support your idea, so what's your approach? Do you still stick to the approach, okay, then just find another not that despotic boss? Or there are still some ways around to do the right thing? Or how do you deal with that?
So when you come to work for government and you have this old-fashioned boss, I think you will not achieve anything and you have to leave. And I will never come to such a place. I came to work for Aivaras, and I knew that Aivaras he's a reformist. So it's number one. And I think that if you really know that your master is evil rather than good, you will have to fight him. And of course, maybe you will be fired, but who cares? You came, for better good. But in private sector is a bit different. I think that, yes, maybe in private sector it may happen the same, that you're coming to work with a person where your chemistry does not work. But in that case, I don't think so that you can build any career. But luckily, it's not a big problem because I never met so bad people at the very, very senior levels. Usually, especially the international companies, they're good managers, they're good, and you can learn a lot from them. In government sector, it's a different story. But in government sector, I say it will be just your enemy that you have to fight and build coalitions. Politics, so we can discuss that many interesting things. I'm not sure whether we will have time. But one thing, you have to build coalitions. Politics is always about building power. And power, you can build power in many ways. One is to have partners that will help you to fight your enemy. So for example, what we did in Lithuania when we made the reform of state-owned enterprises in Ukraine, I said, well, I'm very young. I have baby face. Nobody trusts me. I'm not credible when I speak about corporate governance and so on, because people say, who this guy? What he can understand? He's just too young. So I said, okay, I need board for my reform. It's just virtual board of directors. And I asked known businessmen, journalists to come and say, to be my board. And I explained the reform. They're clever people. They of course acknowledged, endorsed. And when I had discussion with somebody, said, this is our board, this is what we do. And then you already have power behind and you have credibility. So it's one simple strategy. The other strategy in politics, but I'm going maybe already into some dark strategies, is information. You have to control resources. Because if you control resources, then you become important. You are a source of something. So one thing is information, you control information. So this is why it's so important for every one of you to be really experts in your field. Because if you're expert in your field, then you become indispensable. You build power in this way. I'm not sure whether I answered your question.
I have a question about business education. Since 2000, in Ukraine, a lot of MBA and different business school. And I am surprised where disappeared students after business school, because our Prime Minister without education, without any education, our director without business education, our oligarch without education. But I know a lot of people after business school, and what do they do in it?
Good question. Well, first thing, I do not think that those people that with MBA somehow better than others. It's just they finished one university, others finished other university, they have PhDs, they don't have education. Grossman did not, as I understand, he does not have any university degree, but he's a very experienced politician and a very good manager. So I'm not sure how this MBA important to say that if you have MBA, you have higher chances to become somebody. I think it's not that important. But what's important that I think those people that have MBA, they have open doors for other opportunities and they leave. Because what happens in the business sector, MBA is just signal that you do understand something that I need. If I'm employer, if I hire you. Because I need somebody to understand business, to know management at least a bit. and your MBA will signal to me that you know something, because otherwise I need to go and search in very big domain of people. So this is why it just happened this way, that MBA opens you many doors, because it's easier for business to find people they need. I'm not sure again whether I answered your question, hopefully.
I think people after MBA not very ambition, and they under pressure more strong, more aggressive, more constrictor. People from our society, from rich society.
Mm-hmm. I think that they might be more aggressive for one reason, is that if it's expensive MBA, you have to repay your loan, and you cannot go and work for the government for free. So they have to go and look for a job. And the other thing, they come into culture where they meet other people under pressure because they have to repay their loans. And when you work in this culture, you become yourself, you just build some challenges for yourself, and you set some goals. So this one might be one explanation. But in general, I think that MBA will not make you aggressive, vice versa. It will allow you to understand yourself better. I will explain my experience with MBA. In my opinion, there are 4 things why people do MBA. One thing is to reflect and to understand yourself, because you have excellent professors, you have excellent environment for this. The other thing is that people want to build great network, because they do understand, okay, so I have to relocate my country, I have to know people in that country where I'll be living, I have to maybe have contacts all around the world. If I'll go to investment banking, I need to have many people working in other countries that do investment banking. The other thing is people want to change jobs. They were doctors, now they want to move into corporate sector, or vice versa. Maybe they want to be doctors, but this is not an MBA you have to do. But anyways, they want to change their career path. And the 4th thing, people just want to have fun, because MBA is really fun. If you want to do, because so many parties all the time. But the most interesting thing that you cannot have all 4 of them at once. You have to identify what's your priority. And then when you identify, then you can work on 1 or 2 at most. So for those people that, especially that want to go for change, that want to reflect, I think definitely they become better people, because they do not repeat the previous mistakes. And usual mistakes in people that they do, it's in relationship with somebody, because we do not communicate with tables or chairs, we communicate with people always. So people, through reflection, through understanding, through help of professors, this is like psychotherapy. They become a bit more experienced, more wise, if I can say. The other very important thing about, we discuss about change, that also do not expect that MBA will change in 1 year. INSEAD MBA is just 1 year. It's just not possible, of course, because it's too short, and no neuroscientists can confirm that, I think.
20 years. Yes. 20 years.
No, MBA.
MBA.
So
2-3 years.
2 years at most, but
since 1995 in Ukraine, and
oh, you said MBA. Maybe you was referring to something else, not MBA. Okay. So just to finish about the change. So what it gives to you is just allows you to understand on how to change, and change is life learning experience. Now, why change did not happen in Ukraine since 1991, since independence? 2 reasons, in my opinion. First, the country was always divided, Russian, Ukrainian, and you do not have sense of that you really independent country as Ukrainian. Again, I might be completely wrong because I'm not living in this country. This is the way I understand. Because Lithuania was very united, because in Lithuania we have 87% Lithuanians, then 6% Poles and 5% Russians. So we're happy that we do not have a very big Russian minority, because they do mess in Latvia, 40% Latvians are Russian, and in Estonia 25%, 25. So this is why they have much massive risk of repeating the same problems from here in Ukraine. So national identity, I think this what did not happen, and because Russia was always close, Russia always plays strategy. Strategy game is always like this. I have to be strong and powerful to be strong and powerful, I have to make sure that others around are weak. And they were making you weak all the time, as government, as the country. So this is one problem. The other thing is oligarchs. I'm not sure whether oligarchs are bad themselves, maybe the hostages of the situation, but they're still keeping the situation, this weak situation, stable. So I think those two problems. Poland did not have this because they do not have Russian minority and they do not have oligarchs. That's why they managed to change so fast.
What kind of books do you read? Are there any you would recommend?
I would recommend to think more rather than reading books. But one book I would recommend to you is Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins.
Maybe not Christian reading, but it allows to understand what drives us. When you do understand it, but reading is not enough, you have to reflect all the time, then it will be much easier to work with those difficult people that you have. Because you understand what motivates them.
You understand, it's not difficult for me to work with them. It's difficult
No?
for me to convince myself that I need this.
I meant exactly that you have internal fight. I meant exactly that, this difficultness.
This fight is about I should leave and find another job where I would have a mentor, where I would have a lot of challenges to develop myself as my career, gain some experience.
Well, if you have other options, and those options are so good as you defined, what the hell? So it's, again, I think even if you work with difficult people, not that it's difficult to work with them, but internally, train yourself. You might look to this as period in your life, and this period calls, I am learning on how to work with difficult people, because that will be very valuable experience in the future.
For me, it's a question of power of will. When I'm
you become demotivated.
Tired, at the end of the day, or this is time to get my meal, I can see that I become more emotional. But I know that I read a book, so.
But you know what happens? Is that significance is as any good of comfort, like cars, like houses. There is a limited amount of it. The same with significance. If I'm significant, means I'm powerful. And if I have power, I can impose this power on you. I mean, I'm taking the power from you, because there is no power if there are no people. We share this, we create this as community, and somebody gets it, but they get it from others. And you feel bad because they're taking significance from you in reality, deeply. But again, you need to understand that the significance in reality, in this modern era, it should not be that important to make you happy. The significance comes from your emotions. So you need to try to control your emotions. It's very difficult to do, very easy to say, but very difficult to do. Again, you will not change it in 1 month, 2 months, even year, but if it's lifelong learning. But it's worth it. You just have to start doing it.
You.
I have a question coming to the question of this girl about introverts and extroverts. You started your speech with importance of cooperations and making links and communities. And if you're speaking about introverts and extroverts, we can characterize them that extroverts make easier this negotiation, communication, they are more social than introverts. Maybe you have your self-research, if we can say that extroverts have more percentage of their success in society than introverts, or it doesn't matter?
In my opinion, it doesn't matter, because we're comparing apples and oranges. In some situations, extroverts are better. In some situations, introverts are better. So if you're extroverted, you have to understand where you're good at what you're good at, and develop that. Vice versa with extroverts. They have to develop what they're good at. And they also, introverts, I think, what they have better than extroverts, they can reflect. They can understand other people much better than extroverts, because extroverts usually they don't understand. They think much more about themselves, because they never realized, understood this feeling of introverts. So this is why I think it's apple and oranges, and you cannot say, well, it's a taste. What car is better, BMW or Mercedes? I think both of them are very good cars, and they starting from the same positions with different qualities. But so you cannot, I think, evaluate this way. Maybe extroverts feel in general a bit more happy, I think, than introverts. This is why maybe introverts have this thinking that extroverts are more successful, and they might feel less happy because when they are with other people they feel stressful. When they feel stressful they have cortisol in their brains, they have less of serotonin, which brings you in good mood, so on. But again, understanding yourself, understanding what feels you upset, and working with yourself, understanding what makes you happy. That's very important. By the way, science of happiness is very important, very interesting, and I invite all of you to study that. Neuroscientists will also agree with me most likely that psychology, when we discuss about psychology, most of it talks about negative psychology. Negative, when I say, I mean that it talks about depression, it talks about schizophrenia, about other diseases. But there is very small amount of scientists and energy spent on positive emotion. Usually when we discuss about psychology, this is like this. There is normal human being, normal level of happiness. And psychology deals with those people, this is negative sign, and this is plus, those that are here. But why on earth nobody thought that it makes sense to think on how to make these normal people tilt towards here? And there are ways. And right now scientists, they go into this topic more and more and more. Because they were not going to this topic, there were many charlatans. They're giving you 5 recipes on how to be successful and happy. But just because this space was left unresearched. And right now scientists says one thing. First, that you burn with some level of happiness already. Let's say out of 10 is 7. And you can change that. So 50% of happiness is inherited, 50% you can change that. The way you can change that is get good sleep. Sleep well. It gives you energy, it makes you happier. The other thing is physical activity. By the way, physical activity is so interesting. I remember one person said that those people that do not exercise, or maybe vice versa, some people say that those people that exercise, they take antidepressants because the effect is very simple as taking antidepressant. But in reality, you have to look at it a bit from different point of view. Those people that do not exercise, they take depressants because our normal functioning stage or situation is that we engage in sports and physical activity. So normally we have to engage to do sports. So sports help. The other thing is, of course, relationships, because this, especially with lovers, this helps. And the lastly, which I realized, and it's very interesting to me, touch. You have to touch people, because when you touch people, you have oxytocin coming in your brain, and it gives you good emotions. So just touch people, and actually the people do not touch like you just want. That's why Japanese kill themselves all the time. So people actually touch themselves quite a lot. They kiss, even men kiss men in ministries. Politicians do that sometimes. That was strange to me, but this is what they do. So hug people, touch. This also gives you happiness. But happiness is more complicated than this, of course. There is one fantastic lecture series about happiness by a professor. I do remember only his surname, Taleb. No, this is Black Swan. He's not a psychologist. He's a crazy guy from finance, which I do not agree on many things with him. Taleb, he is Jewish. He taught positive psychology in Harvard, and there is his lecture series in YouTube. You just type positive psychology Harvard, and you will find, I think, 24 lectures. and he explains brilliantly about the science of happiness.
Can you repeat?
Taleb, his surname, I can't remember his name. Positive psychology, just type positive psychology Harvard in YouTube or Google, and it will show you. Skinny guy, not short as me, and he taught this positive psychology in big Harvard lecture theater. One of the best lectures I've ever seen, because he's very structured. He explains everything easily, and it's eye-opening.
You mentioned Singapore, so
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, do you know maybe a political party 510, and just your opinion about it?
I know the party, don't understand what it's about. They say 510, as I know it's related with taxes. I don't know. I don't know the party. I think it's some marketing trick, because you don't do politics this way. I don't understand who is the leader even of this party. So I don't know much about them. I just saw the sign, and I think it's some marketing trick. But they're quite efficient. It's quite interesting. I think they will find some small niche of people, because they're showing this 510. It will stay in people's heads, and when they will go to vote, they will say, "Oh, 510. I do remember 510. I don't know why, but I will maybe check." But maybe I'm wrong again. Maybe they explain something. Maybe I'm not watching Iranian television. This is another reason maybe why I don't know about them.
Okay, another question from me.
About the same topic?
I was going to ask about online courses. What do you think about that? Is it efficient or not?
Amazing. If you can do that, I cannot. I start watching them and I discontinue after second lecture, and usually after first 15 minutes. But I think I have some problem of hyperactivity disorder. I cannot focus sometimes a lot. I listen, for example, this positive psychology. I cannot just watch them. I go running and then I listen through headphones, because while I run, I engage in something. Then I can listen. Then I can focus. So I think it's brilliant, but it does not work for me because I cannot. I can just not sit down and watch. Because then I will start thinking about something else. I will start to Google. So this, but for others, I think it's great. And by the way, I think this is a great wave of new story in the field of education, because there are so many inefficient universities that can increase the efficiency many times by simple thing. They will increase quality. They will reduce cost of education by simply saying that, guys, this is Harvard Economics 101. I cannot deliver this course better than these guys, so watch it, and we will come only to discuss what you heard. Because in any university, you have to understand theory, but then you have to have classes to discuss, to understand. So you can always use this. Go and watch this Coursera course or EDX, whatever, and then you will come and we will discuss. And you will save so much money, and you will increase quality. And the other thing, I think, because of this availability of these online courses, the world will change massively. Because try imagine India, 1.2 billion people right now having access to Harvard education. I think that will change the world.
So there are no courses you have done, or have you
Completed.
some?
No, because I cannot watch them.
I know a lot of people from Lithuania moved to Europe and to America, and maybe you know how many percentage come back from Europe, from America to Lithuania after study, after experience.
More and more people come right now.
Could you explain how many percentage approximately?
It's difficult for me to say how many people left to study abroad and to work good jobs, because most of them left to do shitty jobs in London, being carpenters, builders, cleaners, and so on. The number is quite big. When we gained independence, we had 3.7 million people. Right now we have 3 million people. So some of the reason is that because our birth rate is very small, but majority of it is migration. So many people emigrated. But right now, people are coming back because the country become much more economically developed. So people are coming back right now. It's difficult to say for me how many people left because of they wanted better education. Right now it's massive. Many students leave because universities in Lithuania are not as good as international. By the way, if you do international education, I think it's not about education only, it's about widening your horizons, meeting new people and so on. But then after some time people come back. So I see that with time we'll have more and more Western educated people in Lithuania. And this will happen with Ukraine as well.
Friends, we feel sorry for keeping Adomas so long, and soon security will ask us to leave because we are here only until 9 at the full America House. So maybe the last question, if that's for you.
Sure.
Of all Baltic countries, the most successful is Estonia. How do you think? Why is that?
Why do you think it's more successful, by the way?
It has the most ВВП.
It's about the same as Lithuania, 5% difference. If you define success as this, okay, I can explain. In reality, we hate to be compared with Estonians. This is, I don't know, to compare you with Armenia. I don't know with what country, but there is always some neighbor with which you compete. Estonians, they have a bit different culture than Lithuanians. I think Lithuanians are much closer to Ukraine than Estonians. Estonians, first they have corruption, but smaller. They are able to make decisions fast, and they are innovative. So what Estonians did with e-governance, it's massive. We actually repeated the same thing, and we have even better, but we not market as Estonians. But they do understand that you have to market these days, that people have to know who you are, that people have to understand that Estonia is e-Estonia, that you have e-citizenship and so on. So they coming up with these ideas and do that, while Lithuania just sits and does not. So it's just different culture, one thing. The other thing is that they have very big influence by Finland, because Finland is a very close neighbor. They have the same language group, while Lithuania has different language group. Our language is completely different. Latvians and Lithuanians, they speak similarly, while Estonians speak differently. So sometimes they say that actually we are even closer to Finns than Balts, but they just wanted to upgrade themselves. So Estonians, they invested a lot in, Finnish invested a lot in Estonia, because they're very close, and they helped as well. So one thing is culture. The other thing is that they have a very friendly neighbor. We Lithuanians never have managed to build very deep relationship with Poland, because we have massive country close, but actually we're not that close. Two reasons. One reason is that we have a Polish minority which is very pro-Russian, and actually we think that they are Russian agents, because and they are, because they're making various conflicts internally, and then they go to Warsaw and they say that Lithuania discriminate against. So it's a big conflict with Polish minority, not Russian, Polish in Lithuania. This is why I think that we're not that close. The other thing is that our history, Polish-Lithuanian, and there might be various interpretations, but Polish make sure that Lithuania never become a kingdom by killing people that brought crown to our future king. So and also they think that that Vilnius, our capital, potentially belongs to them. So there is some strange things. So this is why we are not that close, even though we have friendly relationship, but not as Finns with Estonians. And to become successful for any small country as Lithuania, Estonia, or Latvia, you need to have investments from other countries. Otherwise, you cannot develop that fast, because investments, when you have FDI, and in Ukraine you have them, and you have massive potential for FDI, because people come and bring everything developed already, world standard, corporate governance, business culture, innovations, everything. This is why having international companies is so important.
Thank you for meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.